want to start by welcoming everybody. We're so glad you're here. A lot of good information tonight. Keep in mind that as we go through this might be the first time you're hearing it. Maybe it's a little review from older students, but all of this information will be posted online. I think we're going to have Mr. Simon in his weekly newsletter. He will send out this presentation, the slide information, and a lot of resources. So we just want you to kind of hear this, soak some of it up, and then we'll be available for questions afterwards as well. As we've got some people still filtering in, there's always lots of seats up front, and then there's several more seats over in the other side over there. But for how many of you is this your first, it's going to be your first experience at Forest Hill Central High School? Raise your hand. Okay, exciting and welcome. And how many of you have been around a little bit? Okay, so good. And so even all of us that have more than one child does know that each experience, though, is unique. So those of you that have been here before, we also know that as you enter and begin this journey with another student, that it will be a little unique. So I want to introduce our counseling staff, Ms. Jacoby, Ms. Velding, and Ms. Van Toff. Along with myself, I'm Mrs. Arcelowitz, Mrs. A. We will break down by this alphabet for next year, so that should give you some indication. We will also be available in the atrium after the presentation if you do have some questions. Your middle school counselors right now, too, we spent some time there yesterday. We're at lunches with them this week, and we will be with your students next week, but they are also really aware of this information and can really support your student in making those decisions for next year. So a little bit, our goal for your students is as they cross that stage in 2029, that of course they've earned their diploma, but they also are feeling prepared for whatever that next step is, that we do career exploration. What is it that is needed in terms of that education track after, what training is needed? And so we are focused on academics, but we also then know that there's a lot of life that happens for students during this time. And so that social emotional responsive piece is a big part of our work. Tonight's presentation really is just on that academic side of things and that transition to high school. So right now what we are kind of dialing in on is that course request stuff. We will also meet with 8th graders. They come up for a Connect Day later where we do a little bit more of the bigger picture of high school. When we meet with students and families in the fall, there's a little bit bigger picture. But right now, in terms of course selection, this is when it has to happen, because in our district we do give students choice, and we build master schedules each year based on what it is that students have interest in and what the need is. And so that is what we're doing this week into next with your 8th graders. A master schedule gets built once we have those requests in, and the main office tells us, hey, this is how much FTE you get. And so our registrar works to build that master schedule. Student schedules get built. We fix conflicts, we do things, but you will see your high school schedule, your actual high school schedule, August 1st. Okay, that's when students are made aware of which hour am I taking which classes. What we're doing now is which classes do I want to fit in my 6-hour day. And so that's kind of our goal for right now. And then before students start in the fall, they have their schedule set for next year. So we will talk about graduation requirements now. This is not something you have to memorize or know all the way through. So we meet with students each year to talk through their 4-year plans. We will have it's posted all over the place. We'll show you some other resources, but this is just kind of so that you know kind of the goal. When we met with students yesterday, we did a little math, talked about how most students will take 6 classes throughout the course of a year. So most students will earn 6 credits, so then you're in high school for 4 years. So if you're not failing classes, then most of you will graduate with more credits than you need. Most of our students will graduate with more than the 22.5 credits. Some of them are earning credits already, or will take a 0 hour. But students will take, and there's a lot of different nuances to sometimes how you earn credits in these categories, and that's what we work with families all along, but pretty much students will be in English language arts and math for all 4 years, Science and social studies, they need 3 credits. PE and health make up a credit. Some of your students may be in health this year. Visual performing and applied arts, the acronym is VPAA, you'll hear that, is a credit along with world language. VPAA and world language combined should equal 3 credits. Then there's another little nuance now that your students will be taking personal finance as well. But you get to that 22 and a half. So that's a lot of information. We're going to break it down a little bit by subject area now. So English language arts, your student is going to have a choice between Pre-AP English 1 or Honors Pre-AP English 1. The district did send a letter home explaining kind of that shift. So those of you that have had older students, you are used to English 9 and Honors English 9. There's a change in language, mainly, and a little change possibly in delivery, but that information came home in a letter. When we send this presentation home, we do have that letter linked again if you'd like to look at that. But your students received a pink sheet. How many of you have this pink sheet with you tonight? Okay, good. So they have their pink sheet. They received that pink sheet yesterday, and were probably talked to their English language arts teachers about levels. So they may have already filled this part in and had teacher input. Maybe you're making some decisions, and that's why we have this information tonight. But our language arts department is present tonight too if you want to ask some more questions. But one of the things that's probably important to talk about when we talk pre-AP, AP, is even what is AP? What does that stand for? An AP stands for Advanced Placement. An AP course, really traditionally, it is a college level course in content. Our teachers deliver that in a more age appropriate way, right? But that you are going deeper and having more rigor in a certain subject area. That could potentially lead to college credit down the road. We talk to students and families about that. If you have questions on that, AP does a great, or College Board does a nice job explaining. But you take a test at the end of that year, and depending on the score, depending on your post-secondary institution, you may earn some college credit. But when we talk to students about why do I do this or not, there should be true desire, right? Interest level, ability, all of those things. And so when we talk about AP courses here at FHC, we do offer several. Your freshman year, you have the ability to choose in social studies, an AP course, AP World History. But sometimes we do have families and people asking, okay, well, what's the benefit? Benefit is rigor, benefit is some of that resume building. And for some students then too, if you look at students, we have a lot of high achieving students, and you wonder how do they get over a 4.0? It's a culmination of AP courses. So keep in mind this does not apply a weighted GPA, so when you hear a term GPA weighted or unweighted, weighted GPA comes from taking AP courses. The pre-AP courses are not weighted. Do you want to talk a little bit about math? Jumped ahead. Next year, the vast majority of our freshman students will be taking concepts of algebra, or geometry, with most students falling in that algebra track. And then the progression kind of comes out. What I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about, because we've answered a lot of questions, your students are enthused and motivated and excited to start high school, and they see those graduation requirements, and it seems there's so much there, and they want to get a head start, and they want to work ahead, which is wonderful. But what we want to kind of caution is that whenever it comes to any of this course content, or some of that feeling the need to get ahead, we want to keep in mind not just next year, not just sophomore year, but that longer term picture. So sometimes what we hear a lot about is, can I take a class over the summer? Okay, and the answer is yes, right? There are ways to take a course over the summer. They are not Forest Hills curriculum provided courses. So that's something that we always want to caution and keep in mind when we are talking about progressive coursework in a world language, for example, in math in particular. So for some students who are experiencing strong success in their middle school math program, like, oh, I think I can get ahead, I can do geometry over the summer. We really strongly almost discourage that for a couple of reasons. That rigor, number one, is not there. We know that for most people, Most students, there are some exceptions. When you learn something in a short amount of time, it's not retained in the same way. Standardized testing has a lot of geometry concepts on that. And so we would say, let's not move so far ahead, right? Or taking algebra over the summer, it's sequential. If we have students that really, because the ultimate goal, if you're moving that far ahead in math, is that you want to get to AP Calculus or above. Not everybody needs AP Calculus. Some people will, but we can talk about that. But if you max out at AP Calculus prior to 12th grade, then you will be dual enrolling in college, which is a good option for some students, some reasons, but the nuances of how you schedule then your senior programming here is something to be considered. So we just want to caution that as you are, if you are thinking of acceleration can still happen after freshman year is completed. Right? We have a lot of students who, once they get through freshman year, find their success, maybe have a niche that they're like, you know what, I really would like to fit this in and I'm realizing it won't. That's when we can work together and say, hey, we could double up on math in sophomore year. Right? We do have students who take algebra freshman year and are really doing well, have managed, we'll talk about balance a little bit, but managed all of what high school means really well, still have a passion for math, and they can take geometry and algebra too as a sophomore and still get to that AP Calculus level. So addressing that now, because we've answered a lot of questions about that over the last couple of days, and kind of it seems to be a little trend. So if you have particular questions about that for your student, please ask us in the atrium after. Science is easy. All of our freshmen will take biology. And then moving beyond that, our science teachers do work. There are some almost everything has a slightly different path, but this is the majority of our students. Social studies, 9th graders can choose between world history and AP world history. They'll move on then to US history and on up. When we're talking about AP world history, I'm sure the social studies teachers at the middle school also shared this, but really the consideration is it's not always a matter of being able to handle that work, right? But it's, am I committed to doing that work in the context of everything else that I'm doing, the context of all my other classes, of my extracurricular life, my social life, my family life? What are those pieces? Because you are going to do a lot of reading and writing about world history if you take an AP course in that content area. So it's a great course to take, but really know that it is going to be pretty time heavy. So students will take those 4 core areas. Almost all of them will take that for sure, those 4: English, math, science, social studies. The other requirements that have to fit in sometime in high school are PE and health. Your students belong to the cohort of students that if you take participate in 2 seasons of MHSAA endorsed athletics, that can count for your PE requirement. There will be some sort of a waiver. It hasn't been determined yet how the district is going to track that, but we know that it will be there. Health is another requirement. A semester of that can be achieved many ways. Maybe you've taken it in 8th grade. Maybe you will take it sometime during high school. There are different avenues to achieve that health requirement as needed. This is one that can be a little tricky for families and students to figure out, because we say between these 2 categories, world language and VPAA, you need to earn a total of 3 credits. Keep in mind there's now a little nuance. The personal finance that we'll talk about in a moment can be a little half of those 3. But I'm going to kind of just generally say between world language and visual performing applied arts, we have to earn 3 credits, 1 from each bucket. Visual performing and applied arts credits can come from a lot of places. Your typical, what we think of, art, music, any type of the music courses, art courses, but all of our industrial arts courses, many of our communications courses, things like that all count for visual performing applied arts. We talk about language a little bit. How many of you have students that are taking level 1 of Spanish or French this year? Okay, so we would strongly recommend, encourage that you take level 2 next year, right? That you do those 2 years. You started early, keep that going next year. Whether or not you choose to do level 3, will be a little dependent upon kind of that forward thinking, how many doors do you want to keep open? So we talk to students about that. Some of your more competitive schools, your most competitive schools, want to see 2, possibly 3 years of the same language taken during high school. Many schools and programs do not require that piece, so that's where that individual conversation can be helpful. Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit? Okay, Ms. Van Toff's going to take over.
We'll give Mrs. Arcelowitz a break. We're glad you're here tonight. Thank you for joining us. We talked a little bit about this with our 8th graders, just about what that tentative schedule could look like. And again, this is going to be individualized and personalized to what your students' strengths, goals are. But as you can see, really, this is kind of a recap of what Mrs. Arcelowitz presented from that pre-AP English to the honors pre-AP English, math, and that will be largely determined or recommended from current 8th grade instructors on what your student is enrolled in. Biology, world history or AP world history, and then 2 of the 3 below. That world language, that VPAA, and VPAA comes in lots of different formats to accommodate student interest, anywhere from music to specific business classes to industrial arts. We have many classes that will satisfy that visual and performing art, applied art credit. So that's a wonderful option for students. And then it also helps to kind of balance out that rigor. Those classes may not have the heavy reading, writing that are going to be associated with some of those core classes. So it just provides that balance, which I'll reference in just a minute. And then also that PE and health. We know that some students will be eligible for the PE waiver through 2 years of an MHSAA sport or marching band, or maybe perhaps they took health at the middle school level. But we also know, being active during the day for many adolescents is still just a really healthy thing for them to do and to consider. So that kind of brings us back to talk about that freshman year and that balance piece. It's really important that students kind of create a healthy relationship with those 6-hour day that they are striving to do. We want students to be challenged and stretched. That is an important thing. But it's also important that they're getting adequate sleep. They are being able to balance and juggle all of the other commitments that they may have in life, whatever those look like. Extracurriculars, family time, if students are babysitting, working part-time, whatever that may be, so that they're not stretched so far that then the overwhelm sets in and starting to feel a little bit, how do I handle this? What do I do? But with that caveat, we send about 85%, give or take, it changes given on a graduating class, immediately from a graduating class to a 2 or a 4-year college. And so it is important that freshmen get off to the right start. Seniors apply to college during the senior year of high school. That typically happens August to October, and they oftentimes are given a response to their admission prior to first semester grades being reported. So what I'm getting at is when students are admitted to college, they're really admitted based upon those first 3 years and the performance in those first 3 years. So freshman grades are important, they matter. And again, it's just important that our incoming 9th graders are establishing that healthy relationship with being a high school student and what that means to be a student and everything else that they have on their plate. As you can imagine, Jody mentioned that we have a lot of high achieving students. So we do have a lot of students who we kind of coined the phrase of they tend to overschedule more than underschedule. Maybe they reach a little too far or too much initially, and then we have to encourage them to scale back, or then they reflect on, maybe I need to scale back as a 10th grader. But we like to support that initially, right, prior to coming through our doors late August, so that they feel really confident and ready to learn, as opposed to a little apprehensive of, did I bite off more than I can chew? So this is what our ninth graders received. We call these our CRFs, our course request forms. This year it's pink for our incoming ninth graders. And you can see that, that first chart is basically a reflection of what we went through, those different core areas. On the reverse, students can see a comprehensive list of all the courses that they are able to access as ninth graders. So it's not an exhaustive list of all the courses at Central High. We whittle that down so there isn't that overwhelm. These are classes they can actually enroll in and find success because they're appropriate for that freshman level. I want you to make note of the alternate. Does this point? Does this have a laser? Oh, it doesn't have a laser. I want you to make note of the alternate course selections at the bottom of the sheet. That's really important. When we spend time with your ninth graders next week, we will help support that. But those are really backups, right? In case those first choices that a student selects are not available, even not available, they don't fit into the rest of the student schedule, that they have choices that they are just as happy about selecting. 0 hour, I'll kind of gloss over this. This is really going to be open to our students who are doing a music or a strength and conditioning. 6:45 in the morning, that's pretty early. But at least it's something that does exist for students who have that interest or in the future. And then that 4-year plan, a couple of things you can anticipate during the ninth grade year. So we launch our incoming ninth graders and their families through this process. We will then host an event called Connect. That will be when incoming ninth graders get to spend some time with the older students in our building, doing some team building, getting to know the building, having questions answered, and just spending time in this space prior to joining us in August. Something else that students can look forward to is time that we will spend with ninth graders doing 4-year planning. That's where we look ahead, right? We look ahead to that 10th, 11th, and 12th grade years. And because we are a semester-based program, 6-hour day, it's tough to fit everything. We understand that. And we do have to plan ahead in order to accommodate all of those goals and desires. And so we spend time doing that with your student, and we revisit this 4-year plan every year. And so it's a comprehensive glimpse of where did I begin and where am I going, okay? This is something that students share with us. They can share it with you. It's done through Google Docs, and it's just a really good way for them to have that comprehensive overview. The scheduling choice board, we affectionately call this the bingo board because that's what it looks like. And it's just a really useful tool. Jody will pull it up on our website. It really represents all the different scheduling programming students can access through Forest Hills. Some of this is not going to be as relevant for incoming ninth graders because it's reserved more for upper class students, upperclassmen. But let's say you have a student who has heard about Tough Stout and they want to understand what is it. You can't move it? Oh, we got it, okay. They're interested in learning more about that, okay? Then students can access that choice board and learn more about what those individual things may be.
The one thing you may use now that is called the course description guide. And there's a QR code on the back of that pink sheet that talks about the course description guide. So all this information that we're presenting, if you want to know more about graduation requirements, testing, all of that stuff, that is listed for all 3 high schools in a really long format, but it's a great resource. So for students that are learning about what is bench woodworking, you can read about that in the course description guide. There's also a QR code for course profiles on the back of that pink sheet. Those are videos that students have made about courses. So as they're trying to figure out, hey, what are these classes that I may want to do, those are probably the 2 spots that you would use the most in terms of filling out the form. Is there anything else? Oh, I got it.
Okay. All right, so again, we will see ninth graders next week, Tuesday, to support them entering their course requests into the PowerSchool program. One of our counselors from our high school will be supporting Ms. Campbell and Ms. Roberts tomorrow in lunchrooms in case students have more questions that they'd like to address to high school staff. And I'm going to pitch it to my lovely friends here to kind of talk through ABC, Athletic Boosters, and PTO. Who's up first? Okay.
Hello, I am Meredith Harleton. I have a kid in college, a kid in the high school, and 2 in the middle school. I am part of the ABC, which stands for the Academic Boosters Club. And we do 3 events throughout the year, and then we do a scholarship program for seniors. So the first event that freshmen are going to want to possibly attend, they're more than welcome to, is our college panel that will be going on in the fall. We invite colleges from all over Michigan, as well as Indiana and Ohio, and whoever else wants to come. And students come and learn about the college application process and what is required for them to apply. So that's just good for any age to kind of learn about what to expect for the next couple years. And then we do a practice SATs. That's going to be generally in January or early February. We just got done with that. It was really great because we have a new format for our SATs. And the format is kind of computer-based now, if you've heard about this. And it was nice to work out the kinks in like a non-competitive practice time instead of doing it all at the real time with like all the pressure. So that's something that we offer every single year, and you're never too old or too young to get started, so I recommend that your freshmen take the SATs and kind of learn how to do all of that and see what their scores are like, which they get back that same day. And then finally, we do for our incoming seniors, so you guys have a little bit of time, but we offer a writing class for their college essays. So that's really nice to have, and we do I think we have one of the retired English teachers that teaches that. And then students leave with their college essay done, which is really nice. We do look for volunteers, so anybody who wants to volunteer can be me next year. And then they are also looking for fundraising opportunities. Any kind of funds that you would like to donate would be great, because we do have this scholarship for seniors. It's a writing contest that they can do their senior year. So that's everything for the Academic Boosters Club. We're part of the PTO, but we have the Athletic Boosters next.
All right. Hello, my name is Katie Williams, and I'm representing the Athletic Boosters. What is Athletic Boosters? I'm glad you asked. Well, we support all of our athletes here at Forest Hill Central with all of the sports. So our main monies come from corporate sponsorships, from locally businesses that are wanting to donate, also comes from Spiritwear, and our concessions. I know you all love your popcorn at the baseball games and the basketball. So we have been able to give over $56,000 this year. We have supported 10 assistant coaches, 2 scholarships. We have strength and conditioning equipment for all of the sports. Hockey ice time, we've given money for refs for scrimmages, ergs for crew, pole vault and high jumping pads, golf bags, ski gates, tumbling mats, and beams. So we support all of our sports and all of our athletes. So, but this is where you come in. We need you. We need you to come and work alongside us and support our athletic boosters. Our one position that we are in dire need of is a treasurer. So our treasurer has been here for over 10 years. Her 3rd kiddo is graduating this year, and so she's phasing out. So if you have an interest in accounting and treasuring, if you want to just even learn more about the position, come stop by our table. We're in the main hallway. We also need help selling Spiritwear at some of the games. We always need help in concessions. So it's a really great way to get involved, to meet other parents, to meet other students. And your students will love it, especially if you're in the concessions, because you can give them a little deal maybe. Don't tell.
Hi there, my name is Gail Bonsall, and I'm on the PTO here at the high school, have been for many years. I have 2 graduate and I have twins who are juniors, so been here a while. Just wanted to say, as Katie was saying, once you're in high school, a lot of the organizations and clubs sort of have their own boosters and fundraising, and PTO is the one organization that focuses on all the students. So most of our money goes towards teacher grants that enhance the learning environments of the classroom. So teachers will request that money or for small improvements. And we kind of fund those things like extra books for book clubs and a new water bath for science and new frames for the art department and new equipment in wood shop. So we try to spread the wealth to all the different departments. And so that's the majority of our funding. And then we do have some volunteer opportunities. One of the other things we do is we support a lot of activities by trying to provide volunteers for those, such as the dances. We have, and everyone says, oh no, I don't want to chaperone a dance. You're not chaperoning. We just take tickets, maybe take their coats and give them some refreshments. So we try to recruit volunteers for those activities. And during homecoming, a lot of the activities, there's a few daytime activities and some of the, like the homecoming parade and the tailgate. So there's still some opportunities for you to get involved from the PTO standpoint. And then we are always looking for people also, whether it's just being a little worker bee during one of the activities, and we're always looking for new people who want to get involved and help plan. We don't do a ton of fundraising. You're welcome. We get most of our donations. We ask in the beginning of the year for a donation. And then we use those funds mostly for the teacher grants. But we occasionally will sell a FHC blanket we did, or go to a Whitecaps game and sell concessions and earn money that way. So we occasionally do some things, but not too much. No, you're not going to be selling much on our behalf anyway. And then communication, we really try to bolster any communication from different groups so you can give us information. We'll post it on the website, on our Facebook page. The FHC PTO has their own Facebook page, and we're connected to all the class Facebook pages. So I recommend even if you're not a big Facebook person, it's still a good way to get communication from other class members and know about all the activities and organizations. It's just a great way to get that information. We will happily promote your activities. And then sometimes we have things in the Ranger Weekly that comes out. So that's how you get information from us and how we communicate. And I'll have a table out there if you have any questions or would love to get involved. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So thank you all for being here. You're a wonderful audience.